All right, let's dive in. We're going to go deep into the microscopic world to meet the invisible architects that literally built our world. And yeah, at times, nearly brought it to its knees.
Picture this. It's the 1880s. France is a global superpower, and they decide they're going to pull off one of the greatest engineering feats in history, carving a canal right through the jungles of Panama. They had the cash, the machines, the ambition, but they failed. And not just failed, they failed catastrophically. The crazy part? It wasn't the engineering or the money that did them in. Nope. It was something invisible.
Just think about that number for a second. More than 20,000 workers died during that first attempt. That's just an absolutely staggering number for a construction project. The machinery didn't fail them. So what was it? What was causing all this devastation?
This killer, it was totally silent, completely unseen, and just relentless. It traveled in the bite of a mosquito, and it was powerful enough to bring a whole nation to a grinding halt. So what was this microscopic assassin?
Well, the killer was a tiny, single-celled organism called Plasmodium. You might know it as the parasite that causes malaria. And Plasmodium, it belongs to this huge, incredibly important group of life called the eukaryotes. Now, this group is wild. It includes everything from amoebas to fungi to plants, and yeah, even us. So what makes them so special, so powerful? Okay, so this is where we see one of the biggest splits in all of life on Earth. On one side, you've got the simple prokaryotes, right? Think of things like bacteria. They're like these tiny, super efficient studio apartments. But then, on the other side, you've got the eukaryotes. And these guys are like sprawling mansions. The key difference? Eukaryotes have a nucleus, a special room just for their DNA. And they're jam-packed with all these specialized compartments to get different jobs done.
And those little compartments, we call them organelles. It literally means tiny organs. And that's a great way to think about it. Imagine the cell as a busy factory. Each organelle is like a different department, you know? One handles manufacturing, another handles energy. This whole division of labor is what allows for this incredible leap in complexity.
And what's amazing is how these departments work together. It's like a perfectly seamless production line. You've got the rough ER, that's the main factory floor, building all the proteins. Then the Golgi apparatus steps in. It's like the shipping department, packaging everything up and sending it where it needs to go. And finally, you have the lysosomes. They're the cleanup crew, handling all the waste and recycling. It's this incredibly efficient little economy, all happening inside a single cell.
But of course, none of this works without power. You can't run a factory on nothing, right? And that's where the mighty mitochondria come in. These are the absolute powerhouses of the cell. What they do is take the food the cell eats and turn it into a molecule called ATP. And ATP, that's the universal energy currency for everything, from making your muscles contract to just thinking a thought. Seriously, without mitochondria, complex life as we know it, it just wouldn't be a thing.
Okay, so we get what a complex cell is. But how did it even happen? I mean, how did it get this way? The story of its origin is amazing. It's all about an ancient partnership that completely changed the course of life on this planet.
So check out this timeline. For about 1 billion years, life on Earth was just these simple, single-celled prokaryotes. That's it. Then, bam, around 2.7 billion years ago, something totally new shows up. The first eukaryote. So the big question is, what happened? What triggered this massive leap in complexity? Well, the leading explanation is something called the endosymbiosis theory, and the idea is pretty mind-blowing. It suggests that way back when, one ancient cell actually swallowed another, smaller bacterium. But, and this is the crucial part, instead of digesting it, the bigger cell was like, hey, you're useful, and put it to work. That little engulfed bacterium, it became the very first mitochondrion. It was a partnership that would change the planet forever.
And look, this isn't just some wild guess. The evidence for this is super compelling. Mitochondria have all these telltale signs of their independent past. For one, they've got their own circular DNA, totally separate from ours, just like a free-living bacterium would. And that double membrane they have, that's exactly what you'd expect to see if one cell swallowed another. They're basically these ancient tenants who became so essential they're now part of the family.
So that first revolutionary partnership, it kicked off this incredible explosion of diversity in eukaryotic life. And yeah, we're all familiar with plants and animals, but honestly, some of the most fascinating branches on this family tree are the ones we often overlook, the kingdoms of fungi and protists. You know, some biologists have this great nickname for the protists. They call them the biological junk drawer. And it's a perfect description, really. It's basically a catch-all category. If a eukaryote isn't a plant, an animal, or a fungus, well, you just toss it in the protist drawer. It's a sprawling, messy, and absolutely vital group of organisms.
And then you've got the fungi. Talk about a dual nature. On one hand, they are absolutely essential helpers. You have mycorrhizal fungi that partner with almost all plants, helping them suck up nutrients and water. And of course, yeast gives us awesome things like bread and beer. But then, there's the other side. They can be devastating harmers. They cause diseases in us, in wildlife, and they've even shaped history. Things like ergot poisoning on rye. Some historians think that might have played a role in the Salem witch trials. How wild is that?
The protists have their own rogues gallery too, a list of pathogens that have seriously left their mark on humanity. You've got Giardia, which you can get from contaminated water. There's Trypanosoma, the nasty culprit behind African sleeping sickness. These tiny little organisms have had a massive impact on our health and our history.
And that right there is the crucial point. The actions of these single-celled eukaryotes, they haven't just caused a few sicknesses here and there. No, they have literally reshaped entire societies and changed the whole course of human history.
Let's just zoom in on one of those protists for a second, Phytophthora infestans. In the 1840s, this microscopic little water mold completely wiped out the potato crop in Ireland, and for millions of people, that was their only source of food.
The result was just an almost unimaginable catastrophe. More than 1 million people died. Starvation, disease, and another 2 million were forced to leave their homes, which forever changed the demographics of countries like the United States. And all of this, all of it, was because of one tiny protest.
And you know, this fight, it's not over. It's not just something in the history books. Today, a lot of the world's most debilitating illnesses are caused by protists and parasitic worms. They're all grouped together under this name neglected tropical diseases, or NTDs. And they're called that because they mostly affect the world's poorest and most remote communities.
The scale of this modern struggle is it's immense. We're talking about over 1 billion people. Let that sink in. 1 in every 7 humans on the planet suffers from these diseases. To put that into perspective, that is way more than the entire population of Europe. These diseases don't often make the headlines, but their impact is absolutely devastating. So, okay, we see the immense damage these organisms can do. And of course, we fight them. We have to. But this brings us to one last, really interesting question. We've declared war on the villains, the ones that cause famine and disease. But have we fully appreciated the fact that these very same types of organisms are also the foundational architects of all complex life on this planet, including us?